If you're a pickup truck owner and you think that having a bare bed in the back is all that you need, well, think again. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a few of the modifications that I do on every truck that I buy. Additionally, stick around because I'm going to share with you my favorite accessories that I keep in my truck at all times. Now, I'm just a normal guy. I'm using my truck to do work stuff. So this is not a video on engine performance mods or fluffy LED stuff for Instagram. So this is about things that I add that make my truck more practical, more useful, and honestly just better. Having an open truck bed is awesome. The problem is anything that you put back here is exposed to the elements and the prying eyes of people looking at your stuff. I think the first thing that anyone should get when they get a pickup truck is some sort of a bed cover. So as you can see, this is the one that I have. This is a soft rolling type cover from Rough Country. They sent it to us. We're not sponsored by them, but I chose this one because I really like how when it's stowed, I still get access to the whole bed. It's really simple to install. I just put these rails down the side using the clamps, and then it has Velcro on it to hold the cover in place once it's extended. Basically, it has these ribs underneath that keep a crown to it so that the water runs off. And then they have this cool system that makes it really tight, so it seals like a drum. Another cool thing is you can't actually get into this cover if the tailgate is locked. You'd have to literally cut into the thing to get inside. So in order to release it, I have to open the tailgate, and then all I have to do is pop the triggers, and it rolls back up nice. I really like how super lightweight this is. I've had truck bed covers in the past that are just super heavy and hard to work with. This thing is just such a breeze. Now, there's a few other styles of bed cover. One of the really popular ones is the tri-fold, which is basically hard panels that fold out and cover. Those are good if you want a little bit more of a secure cover, if you want to potentially be able to put some stuff on top of it. They do take up a lot of bed space even when they're stowed, so you just want to be aware of that. And then you have what I think is one of the most secure ways to cover your bed, and that's like a sliding metal rolling system, which is pretty expensive, and the box that it rolls up into can take a good portion of your bed as well. Some other options that are one piece would be a low profile cover that raises up on arms to give you access to the bed. Those can be a little more expensive, but look really nice. You have your grandpa's sort of camper shell style cover. It's a little bit of a different category, but it's a larger space that you can store and protect things in, and it's great for camping, stuff like that. Now, on cost, this cover costs about $200. Now, I chose it for the features, but it just so happens that it's one of the more affordable ones out there. If security was the most important thing to you, then you might want to go with the metal roll-up style of cover. And that could cost you up to $3,500 or more. Now, the same holds true for tri-fold or any other style of cover. It really comes down to what your priorities are and what your budget is. Even if you don't have a truck, make sure you subscribe to Budget Mechanic because we have lots of exciting content to come and you don't want to miss out. Now, speaking of beds, I was going to make this a whole separate category about bed liners, but most trucks now are being made with either plastic or fiberglass beds or come from the factory with a bed liner. But if you happen to get a truck, maybe it's a little older or for whatever reason doesn't have a bed liner, it's just bare metal, I highly recommend you get some form of bed liner, preferably the spray-on type, so that you don't get a bunch of rust in your bed. What are trucks the best at? Hauling stuff. What happens when it comes time to carry long, awkward things like a kayak or a bundle of lumber? Well, those can be difficult even if you have a truck. That's where racks come in. So just like bed covers, truck racks are going to have all kinds of different features, be designed for different people and their needs, and have different price tags. So what I ended up using on my truck, and actually all the trucks that I've owned, is the roof rack, a rack that can fold out into two cross members. What this means is I can stow these when I don't want them, and then install them across the top of the roof when I do. So with this style of rack on an extended cab roof like this, it is actually long enough that you could put surfboards up here, some small lumber, a kayak even. But what it's really good for is rooftop carriers. That's kind of what I do with it. So you can get a rooftop basket, or I have a soft waterproof rooftop carrier that I put camping equipment in, and that frees up the bed of my truck for things like dirt bikes. Now there's a couple more styles of racks, and one of them is a lightweight style, more for recreational stuff. So it's like usually 2 sets of posts and 2 crossovers. They're great for kayaks, surfboards. Then on a contractor's truck, you might see a more heavy duty, 1-piece, 4-cornered rack that maybe even stretches out over the cab. Now again, for me, the reason I didn't go with a bed mounted rack system is because for what I do for work, I don't really need a rack to put long stuff on my truck. Now, if you wanted to get into one of these bed-mounted rack systems, you could spend as little as $300 or $4,000 plus for a custom welded one. The next modification is seat covers. Now, seat covers are probably a good idea in cars as well, but on trucks, it's essential. So I use this truck primarily for work, which means I've got tools flying around, I'm putting parts and materials in here, I'm usually dirty, I'm carrying around dirty people with me. It just gets used really hard. On that note, something that I would do in my truck that I wouldn't probably do in my car is put seat covers on the back seat as well. And let's be honest, the back seat of a pickup is just where everything gets thrown. I mean, I probably put more tools and parts and crap here than I do on the passenger seat up front. And the whole idea with seat covers is that we're trying to protect the seats underneath so they don't get stained, so they don't get ripped, to maintain the value of the vehicle. One thing you'll notice on a lot of old trucks is that this outer side of the driver's seat is often split, torn, the foam is showing, or totally eroded. And this is because trucks tend to be a little bit higher than cars. So when you're getting in and out of them, you're sitting and sliding really hard on that outer edge of the seat. And if you don't have a seat cover protecting it, it's gonna wear out a whole lot faster. So these seat covers I've had for about 3 years now, and they were sent to me by Rough Country, and there's no rips or tears yet. So they're working really well, and they cost $260 new. Now, charging your cell phone is great in a truck, but sometimes if you're doing some serious work or some serious recreating, you need an AC outlet for some of your toys. Now, the only way you're gonna get an AC outlet in a vehicle is with an inverter, which takes the 12-volt system of the car and gives you that outlet. Now, they do make some aftermarket things you can plug into your cigarette lighter that'll give you an outlet, but they're usually very low power. So maybe you can charge a tablet or a camera battery. But if you want to run something like a laptop or a light or a small tool, you're going to need a bigger inverter like this one. So this is my trusty 500-watt inverter that I've wired straight from my battery. So I can flip on this switch in the back and it gives me 2 AC outlets. And I use this a lot for camping. So I can run pumps for air mattresses or a string of lights for my whole campsite with this thing. Additionally, this inverter, as well as many others, offer USB outlets on the front, which are actually much higher power than the ones that are in the cigarette lighter, so you can charge stuff a lot faster. Now, a couple things when it comes to inverters. A lot of trucks already have inverters built into them. They'll have an outlet on the dash or maybe one in the bed, but they're often, again, pretty low powered. And also what I find annoying about those ones is they turn off when the truck isn't running. So essentially, if the key's out, you can't use your inverter. Now, the reason they do that is because, like the one I have here, plugged straight into my battery, I can, in theory, drain my own battery if the truck isn't running. So I have to be careful that I keep the truck running enough that my battery doesn't die. Also, you can't just go out and buy a giant inverter and run a refrigerator off of it, because your battery and or your alternator won't be able to keep up with the power demands. Now, every truck's gonna be a little different, but on my truck, I can run up to a 650-watt inverter before I have to start upgrading my alternator and battery. So you remember those not so typical truck accessories I promised at the beginning? Well, here they are. I always keep this in my truck. Bunch of ratchet straps. Pretty obvious, tying stuff down in the back of your truck. Big fan of Rhino. They have the carabiner type clips. You can afford those. They're the best. Grew up with a sailor dad. I don't know, I've always had a coil of rope and always needed it. I like to keep a bike lock or something similar in the back of the truck to tie down valuables. So say you have a lawnmower in the back, you can't put the truck bed cover over it. You don't want someone walking away with your lawnmower, so you lock it to the bed. Then one of my old-time favorites, it's the cargo mesh. If you've got something that's up higher than your bed cover, or maybe lots of loose things, garbage bags, whatever, holds it down nice and tight on the highway. And last but not least, it's the bin. You may notice some little hangy ties. Well, the reason for that is I can tie this off to the bed of my truck, and it gives me a little container for smaller items that I don't want sliding around when I'm driving, or maybe I've got a bag of groceries and I don't want it falling over and mixing with the engine oil that I've also got back here. So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, you're definitely going to want to check out this one we made on why 4-cylinder engines might be better than 6-cylinder.